So because I'm a fucking sadist, I decided to do more videos, even though I wore myself out with the past 4. Anyway, so moving on to our next Patreon request, this next request comes from Nolan Unejo, who asked me to do my 10 favorite human characters in kaiju movies. We always talk about, in kaiju films, we always talk about the monsters and not much about the people. So, yeah, I thought this was a cool one to do. As always, if you guys want to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can hit the 3rd tier. That'll allow you access to my stuff on Patreon, as well as allow you to send me requests for videos for me to do here on YouTube. But other than that, let's get started. But yeah, like I said, this isn't so much a top 10. This is just more of 10 of my favorite human characters in kaiju films. Now again, this is just my personal opinion, and everyone's list is going to be different. So, and I'm always excited to hear where you guys stand with these characters. So yeah, as always, I'm always excited to see where you guys stand in the comments. And again, not a top 10 list, just 10 favorite human characters in kaiju films. And it's not just Godzilla, although a good number of them are Godzilla, what can you do? But there are a few others, so let's get started with our first character, Trapper. Trapper is definitely one of the few characters in the Monsterverse, one of the few human characters in the Monsterverse that isn't, goddamn annoying, or boring. I'm sorry, like I've said before, Millie Bobby Brown, I don't know what it is, and I've said, and it's not just her, it's the entire Stranger Things cast that isn't the adults. Like the main kid cast, Finn Wolfhard, Bobby Brown, all of the kid cast, they just suck outside of Stranger Things. They just suck outside of Stranger Things stuff. So she was an interesting character. Vera Farmiga, she had an interesting take. Charles Dance, always a great villain. But the thing of it is that none of them only a few human characters in the Monsterverse are really stand out, and Trapper's one of them. It's probably because of how good of a actor Dan Stevens is. He's just this fun veterinarian for kaiju, which you don't see in a lot of media. I wish we got more of that. If we lived in a world of giant monsters, of megafauna, there would be vets to take care of said megafauna if we wanted to keep them alive. So, yeah, I was just kind of that makes a lot of sense. That genuinely makes a lot of sense. And again, it's maybe his acting, but he seemed like he was giving a fuck. He gave a legitimate fuck about the role, and the energy of the character's a lot of fun. Is he a little over the top? Yeah, but have you seen New Empire? It's all over the top. So, Trapper was definitely a favorite. Moving on now to Akane Yasuhiro. Or Yashiro. I know it's pronounced 2 different ways. Yashiro is she's a great character from Godzilla against Mechagodzilla and Godzilla Tokyo SOS. It's a great Mechagodzilla duology. I really, really like this character. I know, if this movie got more promotion, people would be like, oh, Japan's gone woke. Admit it, you'd be right. You'd hear that. You would hear that on stuff. But no. What I like about this film, what I like about Akane, is that she basically is kind of like a proto version of a character we'll get into, because it would be impossible these days not to talk about him in kaiju film characters. We'll get to him in a little bit. And yes, I do have the list written down, because I knew I was going to forget the names. But yeah, getting back to Akane. Akane she's capable. She's also dealing with PTSD and punishing herself. It doesn't go into the depths of a certain other film, but it is definitely a great blueprint. And again, how she manages to pilot Mechagodzilla, Kiryu, how she manages to pilot Kiryu is awesome. The only problem is she gets put on the backdraft in the second film. Even though I do like Tokyo SOS, probably because of the tag team with Mothra and Kiryu fighting Godzilla. Yeah, it does kind of Godzilla against Mechagodzilla is more of a character story, and it sucks that Akane gets thrown to the wayside in that film. But she's definitely She's capable. She's strong. She's also capable. She's also like, yeah, I'll jump on Godzilla's back. Fuck radiation poisoning. I'll jump on that motherfucker's back and tag him. Yeah, I didn't see any other character do that. Anyway, so Akane deserved to be on this list. Next up, we have Goro Maki. And you may be asking right now, which Goro Maki? Multi, like, which Goro Maki are you referring to? Are you referring to the Goro Maki who is, from Shin, or Mechagodzilla, or whatever? This one's a cheat because it's all of them. The name Goro Maki has always been synonymous with Godzilla, and there's always some neat, fascinating characters, like, of course, the Goro Maki who created Shin Godzilla, to make that Lovecraftian horror. Then you have another Goro Maki in the universe who created, literally, Jet Jaguar. One of the best mechas ever. Don't fight me on that, you'll lose. And, created some just absolutely banger characters. What more can I say, honestly? Anyway, so, yeah, Goro Maki on the character itself. A little bit cheating, but hey, fuck it, it's my list. Now we come to a character I was referring to a little earlier. Koichi Shikishima, a new character in the Kaiju universe, but has made a splash as probably one of, if not the best, human characters in basically Kaiju history. When everything I talked about with Akane, Shikishima took it to the next level. Here's a character who punishes himself for cowardice and losing his family and blaming himself for the war that was out of his control. Not only that, he's got this great thing of exploring PTSD of can I be happy? Can I be finally happy? Can I finally be allowed to be free of this war? And it almost goes in the direction of him ultimately killing himself just to kill the nightmares. Doesn't go that route, obviously, but still, Shikishima is and again, the entire cast, I would have to say, the entire human cast of those characters are some of, if not the best human characters in any Godzilla film. But, we've all slobbed on -1's knob enough, so not to say it's a bad film, it's a great film, but we have all given our flowers to -1 Goji. Anyway, now we come to a American character in a Japanese film, Steve Martin. Yes, he was inserted for the American cast. Yes, he was. That was all done for the show. For the American cut of Godzilla King of the Monsters. Yes, it was that. But thank God, Raymond Burr is a great fucking actor, because he's actually he actually did give a fuck about the source material and fought really hard to keep as much of the original film intact. Not only that, you can all thank him for, saving. As much as I love Roger Corman films, the dude was going to butcher Godzilla 1984 in the American cut, and if you thought the Diet Coke gags were funny, yeah, if it weren't for Raymond Burr, the only way he would do the film is if they took the source material seriously. You can make fun of how big he got, but respect. The dude saved that movie, and again, Steve Martin could have been Russ Tamblin's character in War of the Gargantuas, bored out of his fucking mind. But no, Raymond Burr showcases as a great character of, showcasing the pain and the blight that Godzilla is on the nation. And again, even in the minor role he had probably one of the best speeches in that film. Excellent character. And I hope that we get a MonsterVerse version of him in the future. We do know he's out there thanks to King of the Monsters, but I would love to see this character come back. Personally played by John Hamm, that's just me. Anyway, moving on now to switching gears from outside to Godzilla finally, we're going to talk about some characters from outside of the Godzilla mythos. One being Asagi Kusanagi. And that is from the Gamera Heisei trilogy. Gamera Heisei trilogy has some great human characters, but the reason why I chose Asagi is because of her connection to Gamera. She didn't ask for it, she didn't want it, but here she is connected to the only line of defense mankind, or rather I should say, the Earth has against a fuck ton of monsters that want nothing more than to annihilate everything. You want to talk about, like, pressure? There you go. Oh, and she feels all the horrible pain Gamera feels. And not only that, like, she becomes sympathetic and a major supporter of Gamera, and is also, like, the glue that holds the other human characters together. So she's a great character, very underrated in my opinion. Now for an interesting one. Ann Darrow, from the 2006 King Kong. And as much as I love the original 1933 King Kong, we all gotta admit Ann as a character ain't great in that film. It's stereotypical of that era. Well, there's a lot of... One day I'm gonna have to, like, unpack my love for that movie and also talk about the bad as much as the good, but that's neither here nor there. But what I like about... And I do have problems with the Peter Jackson film. I have a love-hate with some days I like it, some days I'm just like, get to the fucking island! And sometimes I like the video game way more. But I digress. And regardless of that, and the 06 version of Ann Darrow is probably one of the best female characters in Kaiju films. She's resourceful, she's intelligent, and she comes to understand Kong. She comes to understand his blight and understand, you know, the loneliness he feels. It's got some great character interaction, minus the ice skating, but still, even you can make an argument for that, I fucking guess. But yeah, that is a character that I absolutely have come to love throughout, and it's maybe because of acting, maybe because of the energy, maybe because of Jackson's directing, but she is definitely one of the best female characters in Kaiju films. Anyway, going back to the MonsterVerse, Gia, the outside of Trapper, Gia and her adoptive mother. I was going to put her on this. She'll be tangentially connected to Gia. Gia is definitely one of the more interesting characters, not just because, like, of her connection to Kong, but also that she has this huge connection to the Iwi tribes and is the last of the Skull Islanders. She has this, like, almost burden as a child to be greater. And I love that they expanded the role even further in New Empire. And hopefully they bring the character back in some capacity. I really like that it's a character who is deaf. I like the idea of one of our supporting characters is like, because the monsters are the main characters. I like the idea of one of our main heroines is deaf. I don't like. It's just kind of neat to have a character who does have a inherent handicap. That's why I'm drawn to no, that sounds so fetishy. That's not what I meant. It's just kind of nice to have not like a perfect character, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Anyway, that's why I like Daredevil. He's blind and also has tons of Catholic guilt, but that's another story. Anyway. Moving on now to Dr. Serizawa. Not MonsterVerse, the original 1954 Dr. Serizawa. If you want to talk about a guy who had the weight of the world on his shoulders, look no further than Dr. Daisuke Serizawa. This dude literally had the only way to stop Godzilla, and he was afraid that he would create something more, which, if you look at the Heisei era, he kind of did, but that wasn't his fault. He didn't know. Creating Destroya, and it worked out. It worked out in the end. It worked out. But still, at the end of it all, this guy literally was like, if I do this, I have to die. Because there is no way I cannot let the Oxygen Destroyer be used by anyone. Because it will kill more people than Godzilla ever will. It's a major sacrifice that he's doing, and he's doing it for the people he loves, and not so much like the country or anything. He's doing it because this needs to happen, because Godzilla is the current threat, and I need to stop it. So yeah, Serizawa was going to be on this list regardless. And finally, did you think I wasn't going to mention her, right? Miki Sagusa. Miki motherfucking Sagusa is the GOAT of the Heisei era, and one of the best characters in Godzilla. A telepath who shows up out of fucking nowhere in Godzilla vs. Biollante and becomes a recurring character who tries to battle Godzilla to sympathizing with him and becoming one of his greater supporters. She definitely has one of the best character arcs throughout all of the films, probably because she's a recurring character, and probably the only recurring character. But she has this love. It's a great, slow, subtle character growth for her, going from I hate, I'm doing this to fight for Japan to Godzilla just wants to exist and he doesn't want to be alone. I really love that, and I really hope we get that character. Like I heard someone say that we may get a Miki Sagusa centric film from Toho at some point. I don't know if that's true, but I'd love to see it. Anyway, so there you go, guys. Those are my 10 favorite human characters in kaiju films. I'm always excited. You guys tell me in the comments below, where do these stand for you? And also, what are your 10 favorite human characters in kaiju films? Just comment below, let me know. Once again, I'd like to thank Nolan and Neho for the Patreon request as well as continued patronage. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I will see you next time in the Multiverse.